Hey everyone, Emily and I are here in our small but growing church library, and we were just going to give some book recommendations. And so, of course, this will be especially helpful for people here at IDC because you'll have them here at your fingertips, but anybody watching will be able to benefit from these, and you can always, of course, check them out on Amazon or wherever. But we'll just kind of go back and forth, so why don't you share with everyone your first recommendation?
All right, so I wanted to recommend this one, The Power of a Praying Wife by Stormy Martin. This has had an impact on my life probably for 10 or 12 years in our marriage, and basically there's 30 chapters, and she talks about various ways to pray for your husband. And so I actually took these chapters, headings, and turned them into a little list that I have where I can see it when I'm getting ready in the morning, and I can pick, it's the 5th, so I pick a number 5 on it and pray for him. Things like his mind or his purpose or his future or his past, even things like his fatherhood, things practical, things like that. So really great guide on how to pray for your husband.
All right. All right, so this is a little book called Jesus Wins by Dayton Hartman. And I'm not really familiar with this author besides this book. But it's a great little book. I actually used this in my former church in Monroe City. We had a book study on this, and it kind of gives an overview of some of the various positions on end times issues. But what I really like about it is that it focuses in on what's most important, that Jesus wins. And so whether in the book of Revelation or other places in the Bible that have to do with the end of time, this really kind of gets the heart of it, but also does give some really useful information and kind of helps to see the playing field and also to keep you out of the weeds, because there are some kind of crazy directions you can go with it all. But really helpful book, Jesus Wins.
And then I have, this one is Yours Till Heaven, The Untold Love Story of Charles and Susie Spurgeon by Ray Rhodes. This one's really good. It kind of tells their story. He was a pastor in the mid to late 1800s in England and had a huge influence in preaching to thousands. And so it just kind of follows their marriage from beginning to end. So really encouraging, and I think it's really good for us as Christians to be reading biographies and stories of people who have gone before us. It's very encouraging.
All right. Well, I'll stick with that theme, and this might look really intimidating, but the good news is you don't have to read this whole thing. This is called 21 Servants of Sovereign Joy. I haven't read the whole thing. In fact, this was originally published in 7 different books, and so each of them would cover 3 different figures. This is by John Piper, and it covers figures from as early as Augustine in the 300s all the way to C.S. Lewis in the 20th century. C.S. Lewis wrote a lot of his works kind of on the tail end of World War II. But, you can just kind of peruse this and find certain figures. And I think what's really great about it is that you can kind of get shorter biographies of people, and I think they're really, really well done.
So I wanted to share about this one called Glory in the Ordinary, Why Your Work in the Home Matters to God by Courtney Reesig. And this one just kind of, it's for any woman who lives in a home because you're always doing work, right? And so sometimes those things, those chores, those tasks can seem really mundane, sometimes pointless, and you can get in a mood where this is not fair, why do I have to do all these things? But this one kind of brings your focus to the fact that we are, created in the image of God, and we are called to manage our homes, but how to find joy in that God has called us to.
This might be cheating because this is 4 books, but it's a series. It's called the Biblical Imagination Series by Michael Card. So Michael Card he was originally a musician, and he kind of had his heyday in the early 90s, but he's really more of a writer now than a musician. But I think what's neat about Michael Card and these books in particular is that you have this blend of imagination and creativity with also some really good scholarship. So these are kind of like devotional commentaries. I mean, each of these will go through a gospel piece by piece and just have some really good devotional insight and application, but also some really good scholarship and just insight into the background of the books and how the books are put together and all that. I was really encouraged by a lady in our church in Monroe City who she just checked one of these out after another, week by week. You know, she got Matthew and then brought it back the next week and got Mark and Luke and John, and that was just really encouraging to me. And so maybe you can consider that. They're really edifying.
And then we have Better Than Eden: 9 Ways the Bible's Story Changes Everything About Your Story by Nancy Guthrie. This one's really great because it kind of shows that, like, just because you were born in whatever year doesn't mean that that's when your story started. Your story started at the Garden of Eden, and how we can see our lives through the gospel, through the redemption story, and why do we have these yearnings, these longings that we have today, and how that points to future in the resurrection. And so this kind of opens your eyes to the whole story of the Bible and how you fit into that. So this is a great book.
All right, I have a real short one here. You can read this in 45 minutes, and it's called The Freedom of Self-Forgetfulness by Tim Keller. I know I've gone through this at least twice, maybe 3 times. I really should probably read it every year. I know it's a message that I need to hear, and I think a lot of people do. It's just about learning how to forget yourself and take joy in serving and loving others, and not caring about what other people think, that kind of thing. He focuses on having a gospel humility, and I just think it's a super helpful book. Very short read, The Freedom of Self-Forgetfulness.
Okay, so my last one is kind of geared towards kids. This is a series here, and we have actually 6 of these by Simon and Akar. They are the Christian biographies for young readers. This one in particular is on Jonathan Edwards. So just biographies of people who've gone before us that are really applicable for children, but also adults. Chad and I have really enjoyed these. Just really encouraging and inspiring, great pictures. We have one on, so this is Jonathan Edwards. We've got a Martin Luther, Augustine, Lady Jane Grey, John Newton, and John Bunyan. So these are really great for kids.
All right, and I'll do a children's one as well, and kind of piggybacking on what she said. I think the really neat thing about a lot of these children's books is that, of course, they're good for children, but adults can learn a lot through them as well. So certainly if you're an adult and you just want to check one out, that's great. But especially parents going through these with their children, it can be hugely beneficial. This is called The Priest with Dirty Clothes by R.C. Sproul. And it's kind of an allegory. It's actually based on an allegory in Scripture. I'll just let you check it out and kind of dig into that. But it gives us just a beautiful picture of the gospel. And I think really clarifies some things about the gospel, about how Jesus didn't only die to take away our sin, but to give us his righteousness, and how that's acquired. And so anyway, it's just a great story. I actually I require children to read this before getting baptized, and prefer parents to go through it with them. So that's A Priest with Dirty Clothes. And I think that covers all of our books, right? Mm-hmm. So come check one of these out if you're here at IBC. But again, anyone who's watching, I think these are great resources to look into and order on Amazon or get wherever you can, and hope they are a blessing to you.